Dreadlords have been our worst villains pretty much since Warcraft 3. Recently, with Shadowlands, we learned that their power is just beyond measure and that they infiltrated every cosmological force out there, affecting the creation of the Burning Legion and the invasions of Azeroth. Seeing that they serve the Denathrius and Death might lose at the end of this expansion, could a faction of them join us akin to the Death Knights or the Demon Hunters, or even as an allied race? I know, definitely a bit ridiculous, but come on, who wouldn't want to have a cool, ancient, evil vampire as a playable character? First, I was a bit skeptical about this wallet, but Ridge, the sponsor of this video, sent it to me about a year and a half ago, and really, I've not used any other wallet since then. It is actually great. You can put 12 cards inside, and you can put cash here as well, and there are over 30 colors and styles you can choose from. Check out my link in the description to get a 10% discount with code DORON and get your own Ridge wallet. Many don't know this, but the Nathrezim are some of the most ancient beings ever, like in the entire universe, and also one of the original inhabitants of the Shadowlands. We know when Revendred was created, Sire Denathrius first created the Ventir, the original few, and then subsequently he formed the Dreadlords to work as his agents. Later on, the Ventir were created from mortal souls, but the initial ones were creations of Denathrius directly. The main goal of the Dreadlords was to infiltrate all other cosmological forces. To spare you a 10-minute lesson on cosmology that you probably already know at this point, long ago 6 forces existed in opposition, they battled each other, and Death was one of the competitors, aka the Shadowlands. You may be confused that Death isn't exactly a process as you might think it is just one of the cosmological powers that battles for supremacy across the cosmos. Well, the Dreadlords were the prime weapon of the Shadowlands, and I'd wager the most successful out of all of them. The name Nathrezim seems obvious, you know, Castle Nathria. They're also known as the Talkitun, which means unseen guests. These agents operated from the Ember World, and the center of their operations was the Spire of Unseen Guests. However, at one point, one of their fabled campaigns failed as they attempted to infiltrate the light, and all hell, or in this case heaven, broke loose. The Naaru were beyond shocked, and they decided to send a punitive expedition to teach Death its place, and they did this, and this was just a massive attack. Light forces assaulted the war, there were Naaru and all sorts of light soldiers, and they set the entire place ablaze. At the time, the Stone Legion was just created, and they managed to defend Revendred, albeit with terrible losses. Ultimately, Shadowlands did repel the attack, but this was a Pyrrhic victory at best, with the entire place burning with the light up to this day, as you may have seen. Now, this here was the turning point. The Stone Rite started rebelling against Denathrius and blaming the Dreadlords for bringing such destruction upon the realm. At the verge of a civil war between the Nathrezim and the Ventir, Denathrius decided to exile and banish them away from the Shadowlands. However, this was but a front, because he ultimately sent him to the planet of Nathreza and still maintained communication with them, orchestrating many more missions, pretty much up to this day, like the most recent one when they freed him. What is interesting though, is that they essentially infiltrated every cosmological force possible. Those that were sent to the Legion turned into demons due to the exposure to Fel, and we have seen what Altraxian looks like, who is still up to this day infiltrating the light. I wouldn't be surprised if those that were sent to a mission to the Void of the Light might look nothing alike their brethren and could be completely different. Thus far, it does seem like the timeline is they went from Revendred to Nathreza, became demons, and then spread to other forces, but our knowledge right now is extremely limited, and it is possible that other variations were sent somewhere else prior to this great banishment of the Dreadlords. Now, cool backstory and all, but how does all this relate to the Dreadlords being an actual playable race? Is this possible, or is this just a wild fantasy? So, story-wise, it is a bit tricky, but it could 100% be possible and could be explained in the lore. If you followed 9.1, you realize that the Dreadlords returned en masse to the Shadowlands, and they infiltrated everything from Kortia to Sinful, and ultimately they freed Denathrius. However, Primus, knowing about them obviously, questioned questions whether they really returned or whether some of them were present all this time, just in hiding. Of course, we still don't know what is the exact connection between Denathrius and the jailer, but the story can really go either way, which could shape the Dreadlords as a future playable race. I am aware that Blizzard said that there won't be allied races from the Covenants, but obviously the Dreadlords are not really the Covenants, plus this could happen after the expansion, after all this stuff with the jailer culminates. I can see two plausible scenarios. Either the jailer and Denathrius are defeated and now the Dreadlords have no master and purpose and thus they join us, or just a small faction of them joins us, or Denathrius defects, returns Revendreth to its rightful purpose of cleansing the sins, and then the Dreadlords join our forces to aid us in the future. These two scenarios is of course how the current version of the story can unfold. However, I have a third speculation that could relate to the groups of the Nathrezim I previously mentioned. As all of you might be already familiar with the enemy infiltration book that gives away the exploits of the Dreadlords, we learned that they infiltrated everyone and their mother. The Void Lords welcomed them with open arms, Titans were easy to manipulate, and they even have agents infiltrating the adherents to life. They claim that our nature is so different to their own, and they kinda speak as if we're completely alien to them. That is because we obviously are. However, what if once their knowledge expands, a group of the Nathrezim could realize that life might be the true way to go forward and they join our cause? Definitely a bit cheesy, but it could obviously be done. However, something relating to Denathrius and him either turning good or perishing in the end could be better writing than this option. I can't say these are the best written storylines, but if they want to add them, options definitely exist and it is without a doubt possible. However, let us just assume it happens, there is a justification and now they do in fact join our cause. Would the Dreadlords actually work, and what would be the problems? I see two major issues, one from the lore side and one from the gameplay side. The lore issue is that these guys are some of the most powerful beings ever, ancient and just intelligent beyond our comprehension. This might be strange when compared to most of the mortal races, but then again, no one really claimed all the races were equal. You can still play as the Night Elves that are like 10,000 years old, or the Vorgen, which are physically superhuman. There are also the Demon Hunters, which really are Nathrezim level when it comes to combat. So in this case, a bit tricky, but it could be done. However, a big issue on the gameplay side would be their wings, which I think would be a nightmare to adjust every armor set to. The Dreadlords don't have like small wings, but gigantic ones that are like 3 times their size. You can see how this can be a problem and how much the game would need to be readjusted for this. I think they can go two ways about it. Either adjust the game or adjust the lore. They could come up with some storyline of how their wings are just a sign that they serve death, and now that they joined life, they could lose them. As you might have seen how the Fell Dreadlords are different than the new models or the light ones, it could be possible that we get a more tame Dreadlord version without wings, or that the Dreadlords could have like a life form that is more akin to a human than a winged Stoneborn. Additionally, they could also have two forms, like a humanoid one and a Dreadlord one, akin to the Worgen. The crazy form could just be an Nathrezim in like their own armor, and the humanoid one could be like the one we could actually modify, and there wouldn't be gigantic wings that block the sun away. So the problems definitely do exist, but as the Nathrezim go all the way back to Warcraft 3, I can't say I wouldn't really play them if they join the creation screen. Thank you for watching. Check out this Disco Shadowlands blend by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history and science. See you next time.